top of the hour, and that means it's time for 2 on 1, the internet's #1 show where two disciples theologians talk to one theologian about the pop culture topic of his, her, or their choosing. Hi, I'm one of your co-hosts, the Reverend Arthur Stewart.
And I am your other co-host, the Reverend Stephanie Kendall. And Arthur, it is good to see you. It feels like the most wonderful time of the year.
It is. And you can't see it. I've got chestnuts roasting on an open fire. If I pass out, it's from smoke inhalation, and it's fine.
I love that. And I'm in my holiday green. I feel like I might wear this shirt all month long.
Oh. Well, see, and I'm going for like purple and gold and navy blue. Like, this is a Christmassy shirt. It's not red and green.
It is. It feels Christmassy. It feels a little Christmassy, which feels appropriate.
Well, speaking of Christmas, I've got to show you this. It's Christmas in July, and so therefore I'm lighting themed candles this month during our promo time.
Ooh, if it's Christmas in July, though, wouldn't June have been Advent when candles are more appropriate?
Okay, well, I'm going to light the first candle now. Do you hear this, by the way?
I do.
Okay, cool. I feel like I'm using a jet engine.
You are. I love that for us. Are you lighting it? Is it for hope or peace?
Oh, it's for passion.
Ooh, that would be more appropriate for for the last week of Lent, though.
And I mean the intense desire or enthusiasm for something.
Well, you know what we are enthusiastic about?
We are enthusiastic about so much, Spiff.
That's true. We're very enthusiastic people. I think that people would actually describe both of us as very enthusiastic. But we are particularly enthusiastic to this part of our podcast. Let's talk about the liturgical textiles from Jeff Wunrow Designs.
It's not even our passion, Spiff, but I think we share it because it's Jeff Wunrow Designs and their passion.
Yeah, and they have so much passion too. And for 16 years, Jeff Wunrow has been making ordinary time extraordinary by crafting banners and copes and paraments and frontals and altar hangings and chasubles and miters and, of course, stoles.
So listeners, viewers, deuces, do you want a stole for a certain season? You have options.
Do you want that stole that is customized to your particular needs? You have options.
Do you want to wrestle with many intricately designed, meticulously crafted choices? You have options.
Jeff Wunrow Designs make liturgical textiles with passion.
And trust me, you do not want a frontal without passion.
No one wants a frontal without passion. Arthur, check out all of the options, both catalog and customization, at jeffwunrow.com.
And for our listeners, our viewers, our deuces who are as passionate about so much as we are, enter 2-on-1, all one word, all letters, for 15% off your entire stole order.
That is such a good deal. And we are so thankful to Jeff Wunrow at Jeff Wunrow Designs for being our lead sponsor today.
We are indeed. And so the light grows, the light grows.
The light grows.
Nobody look at me while I blow out the candle real fast. With the chestnuts and the candles, it's a lot of smoke. Okay. And since it's Christmas in July, we're going to start with the last relic of the 1990s, Love Actually from 2003 or 2004. Let's bring in our guest.
Let's do it. I have a feeling today is going to be one of those days in which it's a discussion, but and there's going to be passion. I can feel it getting heated because this is a very polarizing movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's bring in our polarizing guest, the lovely, marvelous, and incredible Reverend Whitney Waller. Hey, Whitney.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back to 2-on-1. You are our most regular guest. I went back through our archive. This is appearance number 4 for you, and we still have to talk about wettest, hottest American summer.
That's true, we do.
And it is the wettest, hottest American summer right now. So, but we're talking Love Actually today. A reminder.
But it's Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Well, no, because if people watch this in 50 years, they're going to be like, wow, it was cold. It was only 110 degrees in Seattle. Wow.
But they'll also be watching it from our moon colony. So
if Amazon allows them a break long enough to watch it. Okay, enough dystopian future. Let's talk about utopian.
Sponsored by
the old school clean water.
You drinking actual coffee? Didn't that go extinct in 2025? Anyways.
Eat it while it's good.
Eat it while it's good.
Well, this Christmas already has gone off the rails, which tracks for
I
Christmas.
already got the present that I wanted this Christmas.
So that
A
first
stole
candle-
from Jeff One Row Designs.
Also,
that first
sponsored
candle
by-
is not about hope, everybody. We're talking Love Actually today. A reminder that this is a spoiler show, and Love Actually is a 2003 film where it's vignettes that all eventually kind of come together at Heathrow Airport, of all things. Okay, so and by the way, I saw it for the first time ever a few nights ago.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, I'm married to an exer who owns it, and I've never seen Love Actually until a few nights ago. So I have thoughts. But Whitney, what's your experience with Love Actually? Why this movie? Why now?
Hey, wait, how much do you love Love Actually?
Actually, I love Love Actually a little less every time I watch it. So I saw this movie probably the year that it came out. I was a high schooler and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Probably spent an unhealthy amount of time trying to decide which one of these lovely, charming British men was going to be my like new celeb crush. And then I like put it away. I didn't watch it for a long time. And then I watched it in maybe college with like some friends, because it is a Christmas movie. We watched it for the season and I realized it's really problematic and it didn't really grow on me. And really, I think that every couple in this movie should have had an intimacy coordinator, like the couple that's filming a sex scene throughout the duration of the movie, because that was actually the healthiest relationship in the entire thing. But that's not to say that there aren't parts that still charm me. I still am really glad that Bill Nighy is there. I still feel it in my fingers and in my toes. And Colin Firth forever. He really can't do anything wrong. So I'm sure in the interim between recording this and releasing this, he's going to do something very wrong and that comment's not going to age well at all, but we'll see. So what about you guys?
So like, I think it's an important, I will argue that it's the last thing from the 90s. Like it is the last 90s movie. It just happened to come out in 2003. I appreciated its patriotism, so to speak, for Britain. Like it stood up to George W. Bush hegemony. I loved the subtitles bits. I was laughing out loud at some of those things, like, "Hey, Dad's going to go sell my sister into slavery. Everybody follow," and they do. And I'm hoping that this phone stops ringing. Yeah, but I think Alan Rickman is more of a villain in this movie than he is in Die Hard, which we're talking about at the end of the month. So,
he's such a villain.
Villain. He's predatory. I thought he was gay. I was sure that like he was going to go home and be like, "Oh, where's my husband?" But he didn't. He's married to Karen, who does nothing wrong except she has no emotional capability.
I mean, she's British, so.
Well, yes, but I love
I
it.
find her lovely.
What is
Yeah.
your thought about Love Actually?
I'm like, what is this? For all you deuces at home, you can see I'm clearly not in my home. I have started sabbatical, and so I am in my brother's house, in which the sun is. I can feel it in my fingers.
I can see it. It's beautiful.
So we're just gonna leave it like this. This is how my life is right now. I watched it. Not to say how much older I am than Whitney, but I watched it in the theater when it came out. I believe I was living in Europe. I think it was, if it's 2003, I have a vague memory of seeing it overseas. But I know that I came back to the States and saw it and loved it, just loved it. It hit everything, like the idea that clearly my favorite relationship is between, what is her name, and Hugh Grant, who's the new prime minister.
Who doesn't have Natalie.
Yeah.
Yes. It's I'm with you in theory that I'm with you that it's a bad movie. I still watch it and still enjoy it.
It still hits all the feels.
It still hits all the feels, and it hits very much in the spaces of nostalgia for me. And it's garbage, but it's good garbage for my spirit. And and I think that, I guess that's okay. I liked the idea that there were lots of different ways to like come about love, and like I'm with you on the unhealthy like sexual experience, and like that the porn stars are like really the like stand-in for porn is really the healthiest relationship that there is, absolutely. And Alan Rickman is as a villain is like, oh yes, and also RIP, and like all the things that you like. And so I don't know, I still watch it every year because I like garbage things.
Well, I think so, Spiff. I think that, like, for me, it's this distinction of it being something that I consume and enjoy, which, like, would still be true for the movie. I mean, as I was rewatching for us talking today, I still, like Arthur said, there are parts that I laugh at and I think are so funny. There are parts that are really sweet. Like, of course, I tear up a little bit. But I think that, like, on that first watch, it wasn't just enjoying it, it was almost idolizing it. Like, oh, love actually is like all of these things. And that's kind of true. Like, love is messy and it's complicated, and like unhealthy relationships, like all of the ones we see, actually exist in the real world. And that's actually an okay thing, and kind of I don't know, like a nice reality to have painted before you. But I think there's something different about observing that as a 30-something-year-old woman versus like a 15-year-old, where you're like, I hope that I get to have an office romance like Alan Rickman's one day. Like,
Oh God.
not a thought that I had, but could be a thought that someone had. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I still like it. It's the people that think it's the best Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Whitney, why is this not the best Christmas movie?
Well, I would say in part now, for those who think it might be the best Christmas movie because it involves a Christmas lobster and octopus,
which is awesome. Like that's a great thing.
But I think that it is not the best Christmas movie, probably because of the refrain that keeps coming around that will never actually sit comfortably in my like soul as one who celebrates Christmas as a like pastor. Is that, well, it's Christmas, so I might as well tell you this uncomfortable thing, because why not? Like, that is the only relationship this movie has to Christmas, is saying like, well, it's Christmas, so I should tell you I love you. Well, it's Christmas, I should learn Portuguese and propose marriage to you. Well, it's Christmas, so I should exercise weird boundaries with this other 11-year-old girl. Like, none of that. I'm not here for that. That is not Christmas, as it turns out.
Okay, so can we, as I watched Home Alone by myself. I was going to watch it with my 10-year-old daughter, who ruins every movie she's already seen, and I just couldn't do it. I love her. I love her tremendously. Watching movies with her is my cross to bear. And she was out of town for a weekend, and I just sat around and made pie and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, the Home Alone, like charging through the airport scene, becomes more and more of an antique every time. I know we're talking about Home Alone with someone else entirely next week, but also like the little precocious kid, like charging through airport security in 2003. If it were America, he would have been shot. And
he's pretty blonde. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was like, he's pretty white.
But it's this precocious thing of like, it's Christmas and it's love. And so can we talk about the difference between Christmas love and Easter love for a minute? Like, why don't people say, well, it's Easter, so I need to tell you the truth, or it's Easter and I'm gonna present to you my horrible boundaries, or
well, I don't know. I do feel like I was just at a Pride event this weekend where there maybe were a couple of people who were sharing some Easter love of, well, it's Easter, let me demonstrate horrible boundaries and give you a bad impression of what love means.
I mean, to be fair, is that not every day? I don't know.
No, that is every day for folks who are part of the LGBTQ community, with people constantly berating them and saying, well, it's in the spirit of love that I'm telling you you suck. So yeah, like sorry, that was just a brief aside on how I do.
I also took what you were saying as backwards, so I now understand what was happening.
Yes, no, sorry. Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, it's very
just woke up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the other side in this is Love Actually is a Christmas movie.
Yes.
Because it is inseparable from Christmas. Like, Christmas is a driving force of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, It's a Wonderful Life is not a Christmas movie. It's an Easter movie. Gremlins.
Why? What's your distinction between a Christmas movie and an Easter movie?
Can you take Christmas out of the movie and it still works? It's not a Christmas movie. That's why Gremlins is a Christmas movie and why It's a Wonderful Life is not. And
what makes it an Easter movie, though?
An Easter movie is when there is overt resurrection. George Bailey dies and he rises.
Fair. Yeah. No, I feel like those are really good boundaries and parameters. Like, I feel like you should send them to the MPAA and be like, listen, we're going to need a new category.
I will admit that this was informed. Part of what we're doing with Christmas in July, and I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'm also moving my hands a lot to where my watch just congratulated me on standing.
Congrats.
Also, that's another barometer that lets you know how far we've come as a society. You stood up.
Sometimes when I go on walks, it will text me and say, the kitchen isn't this far away. Who stole this? I almost lost my point. Oh, asking if Die Hard was a Christmas movie to try to draw out guests about Die Hard later in this month. A conversation emerged about whether or not Christmas movies were Christmas movies. So it's not my work. It's Micah James and Jeremy Skaggs and Donnie Featherston. A whole bunch of people came up with that definition. So I just want to give credit where credit is due. Anyways, okay. I lost my question. I'm sorry.
Well, so you asked the difference between Christmas love and Easter love, right? And then I think we all took an opportunity to quip.
Why aren't there love actuallys for like Easter? Why don't we have like, oh, it's Easter, go ahead and kiss her, or it's Easter, go ahead and, you know.
I mean, to be fair, I think it's in part because the like movie genre that Love Actually did give birth to, which is the like bloated ensemble cast movie, right? Like, I mean, we get Love Actually, and then that's why we get Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And clearly we just did not get to make it to like late March, early April to have Easter weekend.
Great Flag Day,
leap year.
But I think that's
to be fair, Leap Year is a good movie.
That is a good movie. I like that one, and not like a bloated ensemble, but yes, but holiday based. But seriously, I think that the reason that we get more movies that are about Christmas love is that there's something much more exploitable. And I don't mean that as negatively as it sounds, but I just think that like there's more fodder there for love that is more grounded in the incarnational feel of Christmas, of what it means to like be with each other. Like that's what, even when we kind of divorce Christmas from its religious undertones of what incarnational love is, and for like God with us to exist, we still carry over this incarnational aspect of Christmas is about all of us being together. Christmas is about getting to have this time that we spend and are intentional in our relationships in certain ways. And I don't think that that's the same messaging or spin that we put on Easter, both in a secular way, but also a spiritual way, when Easter's more about talking about where sacrificial and redemptive love meet each other. I think that that's maybe a harder thing to distill out for like mass consumption in a way that's like healthy and life-giving. I mean, I think that we, in a way that's not Passion of the Christ.
Well, and because it's the 2 times a year that we say, like, look at how connected we all are, right? The birth of Jesus, birth like spreads out into like, here's the love for all of us. And then Easter's the resurrection of, all of that, again, in the connected way. And I do see why this is a Christmas movie, being as these vignettes are intricately connected in different and new ways. And I like that. And as I rewatched it, I was like, it feels a little bit like church on Christmas Eve, when everyone comes back, the people you haven't seen in a really long time, people that you see all the time, and you hear all the stories from throughout the year of what's happening. And as pastors, we get the like, I think my husband's cheating on me, I'm in love with the prime minister, all at once. And you're like, oh, cool. Like
it is something that we're actually trying
happy Christmas, everyone.
Being in love with the British prime minister is a required class, I know, at every disciple seminary.
Obviously, I mean, I took it twice, but there is, but so it's like, I get it. And I get that, like, it does feel a little sloppy, like church. And I mean that in like church's best way.
Yeah.
Not like church is messy. Church is messy because church is people. This movie is messy because there's people here. And also this movie needs a pastor or a chaplain to say, like, here are the ways in which I see God at work in you, and here are the ways in which I see you sabotaging your own life's mission of goodness and what God is doing for you.
Okay, we have to talk about Peter, Mark, and Juliet, please.
Oh, for sure. We
On
can.
the
Yeah.
sabotage thing. Number one, I'm super disappointed that Mark wasn't in love with Peter. I thought that would have been a way better plot.
Well, that would have been the,
In the Bible, it's in there. It's just not in here. No.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there. Mark being the naked streaker in Mark 14.
There you go.
Anyways, it's super unhealthy. Like the entire thing is just love comes from betrayal and dishonesty and obsession. Why is that romanticized, and how does that affect our I'm gonna throw something out. There's corporate love and there's Christian love. It's not a dichotomy. There's overlap in that. Corporate love teaches us a definition of love that is very different from the Christian understanding of it. And when I say Christian understanding, I mean love hath no greater act than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Love is patient, love is kind. I know we need to avoid 1 Corinthians. Do you guys know that I did a study on 1 Corinthians last year?
Ding, ding, ding for all of our deuces out there.
But love as self-sacrifice. And then corporate love, or what I'm going to call corporate love, is more, what do I get out of this and how are my needs going to be met for the sake of feeling good, feeling full, feeling whole? There's overlap in these. How do we confront corporate love when it seeps into the church? Because I think it does. And when we say God is love, people think God is corporate love. Maybe that's just more of a hypothetical question. I apologize if that is the case, my friends.
No, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of it specifically as it relates to that, to those three characters, Mark, Juliet.
Well, because Mark should not have shown up with a boombox and signs, like, at all. And by the way, I changed my name to Carol Singers because when the sign said, tell him it's Carol Singers, I was like, wait, who's Carol? But he shouldn't have shown up. That was the most selfish thing in the world. Like, she married your best friend.
It is. It's really selfish. And yet, is there room for grace in which they're young, and I don't want to excuse any of it, but there seems to be a part of it that may, why do we think it's romantic? Because I think there's something, I don't know, fun's the wrong word, but something magical about people being in love with you that you don't know about, the surprise of love that comes in. I don't know, maybe it is just garbage and I haven't thought this.
I really do want to play with this a little bit, because it's fascinating that Love Actually is my ex or husband is going to be mad at me. Love Actually is not a great movie, but it's also zeitgeist. It speaks to a part of us that is there.
Yeah.
That card thing, it shows up every year in something else, right? People use it to propose. People use it for real moments in their life, and it always.
And I think though that gets maybe that gets a little bit to Arthur's question about the difference between Christian love and corporate love. Is Christian love, the ethos that involves requires that the means and the ends are both justified. It's not, oh, well, but the sentiment's so sweet. It's okay that it's kind of misplaced. And that's not to say that there's not grace in the way that Christian love happens. Obviously there is. But I think for me, I see this as sort of this comparison point of that's one of the scenes in the movie that I do remember thinking, oh my gosh, I would love for, a boy to come and do something like this for me. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, whoa, I haven't contextualized what he just did. I'm just thinking about this one moment of that. And while I can hold on to the piece of that was beautiful, it's really problematic, I think, in some ways that we sometimes find ourselves brokering what's okay because of love, or what's okay because I'm being authentically honest and vulnerable. Like, the part of it that I really have a problem with is that none of that should have been Keira Knightley's character's responsibility.
Yep.
Yes.
Like, she's the one who has to live with the knowledge that her husband's best friend has unrequited love for her,
Yeah.
and now is put like into the situation of, do I tell my husband that? Do I, like, am I the one who's supposed to say where in this relationship, like, the two friends relationship, like, what an unfair, unnecessary thing to put on her, in addition to what we find out, like, in that scene where he's showing the video that he's made of their wedding, which is horrible camera work for a lot of reasons and very creepy. But also, like, I'm sorry, what? She's just like, but you're always so mean to me. Yes, I'm such a well-developed adult that my only response to having feelings for you that it is not appropriate for me to express to you is to either be incredibly mean and unkind to you all of the time, or to show up at your door, ask you to lie to your husband, and then show you these signs and walk away. The only solace that I find in any of this is that I assume this is the origin story for Rick from The Walking Dead. That he is so embarrassed that he did this. He moves to America, adopts a Southern accent,
Goes into a coma.
and then goes into a coma, and then zombies happen.
All right, I take it back. It's garb. I think I again hadn't put all of those pieces together. It is garb. I'm fully on board with what you said, Whit. It's garbage. Yeah,
but the one little bit though, it's so nice.
It's so cute. And we're 90s kids who have been told I'm a 90s kid who's been told time and time again that, like, there is this one true love, and that's part of the audience participation. Is Keira Knightley supposed to be here or there? But it's like, as an adult now, like, I didn't have the lens in which I first viewed this, in which it was kind of ingrained in me, was not mature enough to say, oh wow, this is so unhealthy, unfair, and unkind.
Yeah, I think now is also just sorry, Arthur, last bit on this, a really good time to remind ourselves that Keira Knightley was 17 years old when they filmed this movie, and I also have a problem with that.
Oh, I did not know that. That's also very problematic. Let's give that 17-year-old this terrible position to be in as, like, a human. I realize she's not 17 in the movie. Maybe she is. I don't think we ever know how old she is. Who's this child bride?
I don't think she's 17 in the movie. I was doing my prep work for today, and I was watching an interview with her, and she talks about the reason she's wearing that stupid hat. It's because she had a giant zit on her forehead. And she said, that's what happens when you hire 17-year-olds.
So, okay.
So should we hire 17-year-olds?
I want to go to the opposite end of the...
Should normalize acne. Okay, go ahead, Arthur. I'm sorry.
I'd like to talk about Bill Nye for a second. And I looked it up. It's Bill Nye, like NYE, but it's Nighy.
Yes.
Billy Mack. So Billy Mack, for those of you who have not seen the movie like me 4 days ago, the entire connection of the film, ultimately, like, Billy Mack is this aging rock star who puts out a super cynical version of his hit song Love Is All Around, calling it Christmas Is All Around. And he sings like a moose giving birth. Like, it's not good. And the whole thing that he does through the movie is he's like, this is a garbage song, but I want to be... I'm doing Alan Rickman again. I want to be top of the album. But he wants to have...
You're doing Alan Rickman, though, but as Snape.
As Severus, it's like Potter.
So weird crossover. It's good. I like it.
Slytherin.
So it's cynical. Like, it's cynical. And, it's like, what are you going to give people who buy your album? Here's a band that has put out a not cynical song, and they're young people. And Bill Nye is like, oh, I got this marker and I'm going to write, they have tiny pricks on their picture. Is this the permission for boomer cynicism that we've been dealing with for the last 20 years? Is that where this came from? And I don't mean all boomers are cynical. Hashtag not all boomers, whatever. But there is a generational nihilism that has become so harmful, that is now phrased as, fuck your feelings or whatever else, was, because thinking about it, like, what did rock and roll do? Like, what has it contributed? It has just said, I'm going to be loud and make noise. Like, Louie Louie has no discernible benefit. Like, it makes no contribution to the culture. Anyways, it's just something I thought about recently, where I was like, is
I
Bill?
think it's
Yeah.
I think it's a very compelling like metaphorical semblance for it, because I think it is true. I mean, it's not like he's run out of money and we have to make this hit. It's not like it's something he's really passionate about and it's of interest. Like, there's nothing compelling him other than, well, I make songs so I can make money. Isn't that what I'm supposed to still be doing? And that, combined with the disdain for anyone else who has success in that market, I do think that is like, I think it's a really good example of, I think, boomer cynicism, but also kind of the cynicism that I think, like you said, generational cynicism, Arthur. Like, I do think it's a perennial generational problem. I just think we're seeing it right now, like in that this life transition stage for folks who are a part of
I mean, this was made right after 9/11, right? The first thing that the movie says is, I don't think the people who were in the planes that went into the towers on 9/11, and I'm like, good God. Like,
it does start with 9/11.
Yeah, this movie is like super blunt and not tactful at all. And that's fine. There's room for that in the church, but like, there's like this underlying hostility towards kindness in this movie, which fascinates me because it's a Christmas movie.
I will say the only profession of love that I do like is the Billy Mack at the end. That, of all of it, when he tells his manager, like, you're the one that I want to, like, to spend these holidays. You've been beside me, and it's not a romantic love. Or though it could be,
well, it's media made in 2003, so there has to be some gay panic, or else it can't be shown.
That's true.
It's true.
By the way, we're coming for you, friends. We hate you, or I hate you, and we will do the one about it, and like, we're going for it.
I have an interesting hot take for you, though, about that we can do later.
Okay.
That was on something I was reading and listening to.
Sorry, you were making a point, and I just
no, it's all good. I would just as I was going through all the character, all the like little, because again, I love Colin Firth. There's so many people in this movie that I really love, and I think that also drove why for so long I've been hesitant to just write it off as a movie that I love, is because I'm a big Notting Hill fan. I'm a bit, so like, I love me some Hugh Grant in that, and there's some translation over here. Colin Firth. I like Keira Knightley. I like Edgewell, or what is his name?
I can't pronounce it well, and I don't want to.
Chiwetel Ejiofor. Sorry,
that's
close. Hopefully. Anyway, I like. So these vignettes are made of really great, I love Emma Thompson, like really great people and really great actors, and they don't get jaded over time, right? You just get just enough of all of them. I'm like, ooh, this is good and great, and yet, like, it's just for the most part, it just hasn't aged well. It's just really problematic. And what do we do with things that sit on our heart well but don't like translate well to our community in the church? What do we do with the John 3:16s that everyone really loves and wants to hear all the time? And not that didn't age well, but just saying, like, what do we do with the things that speak more to us on a personal level than the intention and the spirit of what it was meant for?
Yeah. Well, and I think with that, like, upon this rewatch, the thing that really stuck out to me was realizing, because I'm with you, but I love pretty much every actor who's in this movie is someone that I've enjoyed in something else and enjoyed in this. Again, like,
sure, yeah,
enjoyable movie. Like, it's candy. It like satisfies a lot of different like urges and like wants that you want in a movie. Not a lot of needs. But the thing that I thought was really interesting on my rewatch is my favorite parts are actually when you ebb and flow out of vignettes and see the connections that happen among all of the characters. And that's what I was reminded of in thinking about how this relates to church, is that so often we're so hyper focused on maybe the larger picture ideas of, what love looks like, what building good relationship looks like all of those foundational principles, that we maybe lose sight of some of the most powerful sentiments of love in this movie are like in instances. It's like when Emma Thompson, whose character, I can't remember her name right now, but she's Karen, that's right. Karen is the prime minister's sister, and she sees that he's at the play that the kids are going to be in, and she's so touched that he's there, and she just says, it's almost a throwaway line of, you have no idea how happy I am to see my big brother right now. He doesn't know what's going on with her. She barely knows what's going on with her at this moment, but for that to be such a cogent, emotional, here in this moment piece. And I think sometimes we take for granted that those little pieces of love revealed and vulnerability, that those are actually that is the love actually in this movie. You're welcome. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
See y'all later. Deuces.
So Hugh Grant is a year younger than Emma Thompson. And when she said my older brother, I was like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, I was like, get it, girl.
That was something that bothered me.
I thought it was part of the joke.
I'm with you though. I think that is it meant to be the love actually? No, but I think that's what we can do with those things, right? For the church to say hey, these things that mean a lot to you and maybe have not been taken in those instances, but where's the real love, right? It's the love is that God is still speaking to you. The love is in the study between you and, let's say, your Bible study group or whatever, all of those things. It's the smaller tissues of connection that is the love actually. I'm so happy to see my big brother. I'm the consent, we're waiting for our first date to get married, to have sex, not that you have to wait, let me put that out, but there was intention and connection and consent and through all of that, and those are the little tenors of love actually in that space. Does that make sense? It is, Deuces, it is early for me. I am in California rather than New York, and so I feel like I am speaking.
You're doing a great job. No, I do. I think that, and I think that it's, you look to those pieces, you look to those places where you have experienced and known and actually cultivated healthy, loving relationships to help us inform the ways that we do that in wider community. Because I think that that's one of the hard things about church sometimes, and I think this goes back to what Arthur was saying about corporate and Christian love, is that we all know and experience love in all sorts of different manifestations, relationships, and some of the love that we experience is really healthy, life-giving love, and some of the love that we experience, while love is still there and that's a part of it, but there's maybe more toxicity to it, there's some unhealth there are lessons that we learned in that relationship, whether it's romantic love or platonic love or family love. Just love is messy and complicated, and we bring all of that messy and complication to all of our corporate relationships, and we bring that to church and to our understandings of what it means to be here. And so sometimes being able to actually talk through the pieces of that are problematic, the pieces of that we still have learning or healing to do from, can actually be a really life-giving and nice experience.
As you're talking, I think that one, Arthur, if you want to chime in on a Corinthians quote over here about what love is, but what love is actually, is it patient and kind? But none of this love is easy, right? All the love that they're showing in these vignettes, this story is less about love than it is about perseverance of spirit, maybe, but Colin Firth's character, right? There's something there that we're like, oh, that's so romantic, or we're supposed to think that it's romantic. Look at him learning Portuguese and going to Aurelia and all of that, and yet it's also oh, yeah, so many bad boundaries, so many Not that that's a particular one, but just in all of it, none of these vignettes of what love is and we're supposed to romanticize has come kindly or easily, or
Yeah.
and so is what, I don't know, what do we do with that? Is the unease of love a red flag for community?
Well, so I think love is hard. I think lust is easy. Love is hard. I think about Colin, which incidentally was one of my favorite plots in the movie. The remarkably ugly Brit who was like, "I'm gonna fly to America. I'm gonna get laid. It's gonna be awesome," and he does. And just the cameos of like, oh, it's every it girl in 2002. That girl
No
was
doubt. That might be the thing that made that movie feel
well. I mean, and
aged
again,
the best.
and I want to note with Denise Richards' cameo at the very end of the movie, when she walks out, Denise Richards had just played a Bond girl in Die Another Day. So she was at the height of lustful fantasies in that. Her name, incidentally, was Dr. Christmas Jones, to set up the stupidest joke at the end of the movie, which I'm not even comfortable sharing on this podcast because my church people listen. But I do love Bond movies inexplicably. Anyhow, that it's almost like Colin was the foil for what love is, because everyone else struggled in pursuing love. And Colin was just like, I'm going to go get some. And he got it over and over and over again. Because,
Well, because there was honesty and truth there. He wasn't looking for love. He was looking to bang.
well, God bless him. He prayer of Jabez'd that. Like, I'm going to do this. And he did. Like, he put it out in the universe. His vision board, they couldn't show in the movie.
I was going to say, we call that manifesting.
We do.
But perhaps that's the foil in it. I mean, and then you have Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson,
which
at the end of the movie,
when she just sits in her room and listens to Joni Mitchell's Blue, I'm just like, oh, like this also just took a turn.
She clearly knows how to hide the fact that she's cried before. That's what broke my heart. Like, she has a method and she has a ritual, and I liked her question, what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
Because that can't be corporate love, because corporate love is about oneself. Christian love is ultimately about the other.
Well, and I think that that's when you're looking at the relationship dynamics in the movie and teasing those out. I do think that in Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson's relationship, part of what makes that all so infuriating is that it's clear that he is so selfish the entire time and she is so selfless the entire time.
But love endures all things, bears all things, perseveres through all things. Love never fails.
Mm-hmm.
But at what point does love make one a doormat?
Or even at what point do you recognize that the mutuality that it requires for that to be a life-giving principle instead of a life-draining principle? When does that come into play? And I think that's the power of the question that she asks. What would you do if you were me? Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think she's asking that question to a tremendously selfish person who wouldn't be able to bear the thought of Emma Thompson spending any part of her day pining or thinking about someone else. You know what I mean? So I feel like that was a very convicting.
So does Alan Rickman's character love himself? Or is
his love actually towards himself?
Does he actually love himself? Yes.
I think he does.
Yeah.
So watching the movie, because I thought Alan Rickman's character was gay and would have much preferred it. Every time Mia speaks to him, and Mia, by the way, fell out of 1997 in a time warp. Like, it's weird. She's the seventh friend. She is the third. The two guys. It was two guys, two girls in a pizza place, but she left. Like, it's the 90th show. Every time she talks to him, he has this look of visceral disgust on his face. Like, rewatch those scenes, because she'll be like, "What do you want me to do?" and sits with her, legs wide open, and he turns away and he'll be like he literally it's like he's pursuing destructive. It is a destructive relationship. I don't think he loves himself. I don't think he can act in love. Not that it justifies any of his behavior. I just always think the 3-part: love God, love neighbor, love self.
That's interesting because I think that, so for me, I will have to go back and rewatch that, because what I was noticing this time is that I'm not saying Alan Rickman's not like an attractive guy or anything, but he's definitely not presented in this film as like the attractive option. And for Mia to be put into this film and the way that she is presented, for the foregone conclusion in his mind to seem to be, every time she does things like that, to be, well, of course she's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the place for me where I was just like, oh wow, this guy's really feeling himself.
Well, and it's once again just like the complete lack of subtlety in the misogynistic understanding of women in Love Actually. Like
Yes.
Which I think is basically the fundamental problem in the movie.
1000%. I think
because every story is heteronormative, and therefore every story says what's normal is to hate women. Yeah. I agree.
And that women are the root of the problem, right? Like we blame Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson's marital issues, society, like not the three of us, but like on the intern that he buys for pursuing him. And rather than like taking a step back and being like, oh, this whole system is effed, right? Like Alan Rickman is just a selfish husband, engaging
a predatory boss.
Yeah, predatory. Thank you. It's like how do I say this nicely? But like a predator. I don't need to say it nicely. He's a predatory boss. And so yeah, I think like the Love Actually is, do you love yourself enough to not watch this movie because you need to step away, because especially for women, in which at every turn it's like, oh, we are the issue and the problem. And I wonder if that is part of the lens in which both maybe Whitney and I can view this versus what Arthur sees, and how we pick things up and nuance the dissection of it all, and like what sticks out to us because of lived experience. As a single woman, I have had to, case in point, like I have wonderful, very good friends that are married, right? I always make sure that I introduce myself to their wives and know like, hey, like if we're going to be hanging out, I don't want you to have to worry about them, right? Like that there is that conversation, because the single woman has always been put as the one that is the impetus for the problems in marriages or breakups and all of the things. And that's just kind of like true writ large in all of these vignettes, that like the single woman, I guess, kind of partly in all of this is to blame.
Yeah. Well, and I think just like the misogyny of this film hits on so many points that, again, when you're in your 30s watching it versus like a 15-year-old who's like believing all of that in the ways that it's been ingrained and socialized into you, hits a little different. But I mean, it's things like this movie's incredibly fat phobic, which is astounding since
personality trait.
Yeah. Well, not only like do they make that a personality trait, but it's astounding to me because there are actually no fat people in the movie.
Well, there's the sister who will never get married because
how dare that straight-sized woman be in this movie wearing a 14. Gross. Like I just the whole thing, and it's not just the writing, but it's Emma Thompson's character. They made her wear a fat suit for this movie. Yes.
Really?
Yes, because she was too thin for it to be believable that her husband would cheat on her. I mean, like I did some deep dives on.
Okay, so like this is a perfect example though of like there's the teenage boy fantasy movie that comes out all sorts of places, and this is like Whitney, you remember inevitably I made you watch Holy Musical Batman 1,000 times by Team Starkid.
There's no maid. I enjoyed it.
I encouraged you to do so during a period of my life where I found that to be the best Batman story ever told, and still
really good.
Anyways, it's a parody written in like the style of like, if you watch it thinking a 12-year-old wrote it, it makes sense. It's kind of the same with Love Actually. oh, what if grandpa just didn't care, and what if all these hot girls just kept coming out of the woodwork for a guy who really wants to have sex, and I don't know why they're Southern. That just breaks my heart a little bit. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
think
the
that
Prime
it's
Minister cool, he's incompetent, and it's okay that he's bullied.
right. Well, and like, I mean, Natalie, that's another person. It's like, and they make it come out of the mouths of other women. That's the part that I think it is like every woman who interacts with Natalie is like, you mean the dumpy one? You mean the one with giant thighs? Her family's nickname for her is Plumpy. And I'm like, we need to stop. Like, there's no world where any of that's appropriate. It's always inappropriate. Also, that woman wears a size 6. So get off of her back. Like,
right.
On what planet? So I had no patience for any of that.
Me neither. Or the talk about mental health. There, I mean, like, yes. I think they really tried, and I will give the movie credit in saying, like, how do we show a comprehensive? I think that the vision was, let's be comprehensive in the human experience, right? Like,
yeah,
there's porn, there's mental health, there's ageism, there's all just everything. They were trying to throw everything in, and they just missed the mark on all of it. And yet we still love it, and there's that, and all of that. But
how dare Laura Linney love her family and her career and not focus on romantic love? Like, how dare she? Okay.
How dare she?
Well, we are nearing the top of the hour. Thank you very, very much, Whitney, for coming on to this.
It was a joy.
Coming on to 2-on-1. No, and unpacking, what does it mean to love something that's inherently problematic?
I feel like that's what I'm always on for.
Well, I think it's great, and we're always glad to have you, and we look forward to your next time on the show with us. We do have a final question, as you are no doubt aware. If you are the expert in asking this question, if you would not mind.
Think about it. I was like, what time is it? Yeah, I had to think about it. Final question, say more. Whitney, thank you again, obviously, for being on. We love you. Come back anytime. Come back again for Wetter, Hotter American Summer, a less problematic movie than Love Actually.
As it turns out,
which the titles would not suggest. But what biblical story, theme, character, or book are you most reminded of from Love Actually?
So I am going to go ahead and say that I am most reminded of, and it's probably because we ended on a note talking about misogyny and the male gaze and how that sort of just makes women a commodity. I'm going to go with the story of Jacob, Leah, Rachel, and Laban, Rachel and Leah's father. I think that this movie really reminds me of what it is for women to be used as like the fulcrum for satisfying desire. And that some women are the object of desire, and some women are the ones who are left to pick up the pieces of men pursuing their object of desire. And that men like have different levels of complicity in how that happens. Jacob was actually very honest and open about like, Rachel is the one that I would like to marry, would be really great. Laban is the one who literally sells his daughter into slavery, which also relates back directly to a line in the movie. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Well done.
I'm going to say that Sam, the little kid who apparently was like 12, but looks like he's 4, Sam is the Christ child. I bring this up because he's the one who says, I want to be fully human. Like, I don't know why everybody thinks it's weird that he's grieving the death of his mom.
Yeah.
He's the one.
The layers of this movie, y'all.
Layers of this movie. He's the one who shows Liam Neeson's character how to love. He proceeds to live in radical community. He pursues, it's that line from The Shack that I do really love. Speaking of problematic stuff that has some good points. Jesus will follow any road to bring you back. So he learns the drums. He wants her to the girl to know his name. And when she sings "All I Want for Christmas Is You," and she points to him, and then she goes, and you, and the next shot is him just glaring and drumming. I was like, if that's not how Jesus feels at Christmas, I don't know what is.
The little drummer boy.
Yeah, and also he risks his life. He runs into the great unknown to bring her back. So, yeah, Sam is the cross.
I'm here for this hot take. I agree. Also, his favorite movie is the same as Jesus's, Titanic.
Yep. Oh, and literally he stands like this at one point and falls. So that's usually the sign in superhero movies that that's a Christ figure. So there you
1,000.
go.
I'm into it.
What about you, Spiff?
You know, I was trying to figure. I was for what it's worth. I really did go back and I was like to First Corinthians, and don't hate me, Arthur. But it very much. I was like, what is love actually, right? Like, there's so much problem that I was like, I wanted to go back to like love is meant to be a space of empowerment and grace and, you know, and connectivity. And while it doesn't show that well here, it does give us the opportunity to say, what is the love that we want in our lives? And so I was either going to go with First Corinthians 1, but I also think I might go with 2 Timothy 1:7. For God gave us the spirit, not of fear, but of power and love. And I like that in the fact that I think, especially for the women of this movie, like to lean into what is their own power for the love that they deserve. And so that's where I'm going to end it.
I'm sorry. I'm just pointing this out that not only did Spiff choose a Pauline text for her final questions answer, she then chose a pseudo Pauline text for her other answer. And that, my friends, if nothing else, is a Christmas in July miracle.
Really true.
I really want to start singing that song from Dreamgirls now. They're like, I am changing.
We'll have to come back to do Dreamgirls.
Do it.
Waller, thank you so much for being our guest on.
It was a joy. Thank you.
Coming up this month, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better tune in. I'm telling you why. Christmas in July continues. Next week, Carrie Tannehill is back. She's my favorite Slytherin and certainly yours as well. She's going to talk about the most Slytherin Halloween Christmas movie, Home Alone. The week after that, Quadri Harris is coming back, and he's going to walk with us through Best Man Holiday. And finally, then at the end of this month, Laura Blackwood Pickerel is coming on to insist that Die Hard is not only a Christmas movie, but the Christmas movie. So those are the next 3 weeks. Christmas in July continues on 2-on-1. Thank you for tuning in. Spiff?
And again, a shout out to our lead sponsor, Jeff Wonroe.
Yep,
perfect. You know, Jeff Wonroe Designs, making 16 years of ordinary time extraordinary. Make sure you use the code 2-on-1, all one word, for 15% off your entire stole order. This last month had been Pride. I wore my Pride stole all over the place, got so many great compliments about it. So I hope that as we talk about Christmas now, you get your stoles ready for Christmas.
Absolutely. These still steal the show. And that is our show today. This has been 2-on-1. Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share, download.
Do all the things.
Yep, do all the things. And thanks, deuces. Bye.